I just recorded an awesome episode with Rabbi Harry Rozenberg, who is one of the most fascinating human beings alive. And we talked about every topic I could think of. So many topics. We talked about the 10 lost tribes. We talked about ayahuasca. We talked about healing. I hope you enjoy it as much as I do.
Hello and welcome to the Brainstorm Podcast. And now, your host, Sonny Perlman.
We're live. Rabbi Harry Rozenberg. Okay, with a Z. Okay, first of all, I'm just really glad you're here, and it was total like a godsend because you just showed up into my neighborhood this weekend, and I just grabbed you on the street, and I am not like that. My wife was like, "That was the weirdest thing ever." She's like, "You just asked the guy right off the bat," but I've seen your videos in the past, and I've just always been fascinated with what you did, and I don't know everything, but I'm going to ask you a million questions. But I don't know where to start. So, because you, I want to, okay, so this podcast is mostly about healing people and going through like our own healing and how to get there. But I want to start somewhere else because I love history, and I have a bunch of questions about the 10 tribes that are the missing tribes, which you've done tons of research on. First of all, hello.
Hey, so nice to be here.
I'm talking too much.
Oh, you sound great.
You see my excitement on my face? So, okay, so with the 10 tribes, one of the things that I've heard you say where you were talking about the Igbo tribe, which is about the African Americans, a lot of the Africans and Americans, you're African Americans that live in America. And so I want you to explain that, but I want to tell you where I'm coming from, a personal place, and I said it to you today, but growing up in New York, I rarely ever got real anti-Semitism in my direction. You know, I got into fights because I was the Jew boy or whatever, but it wasn't anti-Semitism. You know, I was just part of another group, and that was fine. But like real vitriol, like hatred towards me, I've only experienced a couple of times, and it has been like sitting on my mind. And that was from the group, I think they're called the Black Hebrews. What are they? What is the group called?
I think that's the term other people use, but amongst themselves, there's different camps and
There's different groups.
But yeah, so these are African Americans who identify as being from the people of Israel.
Right.
You're referring to.
Yeah, and
the extremist groups of them. But that's not what I think about it. That's just what the terminology is.
Right, okay. So I also didn't know what it was. So, okay, I'm glad it's up in the air because I didn't really know. Yeah. And I've gotten several times in my life. I remember one time I was walking through Harlem, and 2 times I got hit on. Like, I would say hit on. I'm not saying. They went at me because they saw my yarmulke, and they just went at me like and hatred. And I'm a curious guy, and I'm like, why do you hate me so much? Like, I really wanted to know. And a couple of times I've had conversations. I remember one very clearly on a subway. Like, I sat on a subway, I think all the way from Uptown down to Brooklyn, maybe even, with a guy who just went off on the hatred of me. But I was asking him a million questions, trying to like understand what he was talking about. I just couldn't get it. So I know this is a weird way to start on the 10.
It's timely. It's it's happening.
So could you where is this coming from? Like, could you tell me about the start with the 10 tribes? What is it? How is this connected? Is it connected to that?
Sure. I'll give a little 30-second elevator pitch over here.
Yeah, you could go longer.
Appreciate it. So it really goes back the exile of the House of Israel, which happened over different waves. So the first thing called the 10 tribes, the missing 10 tribes, was when the northern kingdom of the United House of Israel seceded and made their own kingdom, and they ended up getting exiled by the Assyrian army towards the Far East, towards Afghanistan, who people theorize that they're there till today in Afghanistan.
Wait, when you say Far East, you saying they stop in Afghanistan? Do they go any
Well, you
further
can
than
actually
that?
see Afghanistan being like the base camp of the tribes of Israel.
Okay.
They call themselves Bani Israel, the Pashtun. we could actually trace the footsteps of the tribes of Israel over the Himalayas and under the Himalayas 2,600 years ago, all the way to Japan, where in Japan today, there's clear evidence of King Solomon's structural, worship going on in their grand temples.
Really?
Yes, it's fascinating.
Could you tell me about that before you go on?
Yeah, it's super cool. The Shinto religion, basically 70 million people, has the oldest monarchy in the world today. So that means like a direct line of kings from 2,600 years ago, basically around 100 or so years after the tribes of Israel hit Afghanistan. And in Japan today, they have a holy temple on Mount Moriah, which was the name of the temple Mount.
They call it Mount Moriah?
Mount Moriah today in Japan.
How old is that name?
In their language, this is like very ancient, so
really,
I can tell you on the air, but this culture of theirs is 2,600 years old,
right?
That the temple is dedicated towards. And this temple has outer chamber where people go and pray. Then they have an inner chamber where they do animal sacrifices, the priests over there. And they keep inside in the innermost chamber this big golden ark on 4 poles with these like golden birds on the ark. And they keep 3 things inside of the ark. It's called the Mikoshi. And it's still the cultural like symbolism of the Shinto culture today, which is symbolic to the Ark of the Covenant, which was a golden ark on 4 poles with 2 golden cherubs on it, and have 3 things inside of our ark on Mount Moriah, the same name of the mountain, the same whole thing. And the Yamabushi priests in Japan wear these like circular phylactery tefillin-looking boxes on their foreheads. So if you go to Google and like you type in Yamabushi, you'll just see some priests with these like tefillin phylactery-looking things on their head. And it's just a really fascinating thing. And the Japanese people, the Shinto culture,
what's in there?
It looks to me just like an empty shell, like a black shell.
Okay.
But the Shinto culture claims to be a chosen people from an ancient homeland that got exiled from their land and reestablished the kingdom in Japan. So it seems crazy, but I could actually show you all the footsteps between Afghanistan and Japan, the cultural boom that happened within those 100 years of those travels, the advances across the Silk Road from the tribes of Israel going to the Far East. And we don't necessarily know if it's like 10,000 or 20,000 Israelites hit Japan and set up a new operation. It could have been based on what the Arizal teaches us and what we see with Esther and Joseph, both biblical figures. These were individual Israelites that ended up somehow in far-flung regions of the world who somehow, through divine providence, rose to become in a powerful position. So you see, like, if Joseph goes to Egypt, marries the daughter of an Egyptian priest,
right?
And imagine if he never reunited with the tribes of Israel, the B'nai Joseph, the children of Joseph, would be millions and millions of people of Egypt today, would be the children of one man, all the seed of Israel, but still from one man. So it's very likely, like a good businessman, a Jewish businessman, saw some opportunity in Japan, crossed over a ship, somehow got to a village, and they saw that this was a very wise man, and they said, look, let's let him govern over us, like we see happened with Joseph.
So it may have been a group, but it also may have been one guy.
Yeah, I think it was likely one like smart businessman who ended up in these regions and just became super influential. Like we've seen it happen many times. And he restructured a whole religion for these people based on, serving the creator of the universe and prayer and peace and wisdom. And these may have been tribes that prior to this run-in were offering their kids as sacrifices to their gods to appease them. And then next thing you know, they're talking about nirvana and meditation and enlightenment. They had a conversation with someone during those 100 years. I find it fascinating.
Wow. Yeah. So that's in Japan.
We hit Japan, so it goes from Afghanistan to Japan.
So there's even influence along.
Sure. Within those 100 years, you see Pashtun, the oldest Afghanistan, 2,600-year-old nation as well. You see the advent of Buddhism. The Buddha, gets enlightenment during the same period of time. And the first 2 students of the Buddha were Afghan, the first 2 lay students of the Buddha. And then you look at the B'nai Menashe, who came back from Mizraim and Manipur to Israel now as considered the lost tribes of Israel.
B'nai Menashe were from where?
They claim to be from Menashe, but they're from the northeast corner of India, right below, like the the China area. And they've said they've been there for thousands of years. And I'm like, you start to just put all these dots across the Silk Road, and you look in Kyrgyzstan, the Kyrgyz people who have the Epic of Manas, which is their religion, which is all about Manas, the son of Jacob. Menashe, the son of Jacob, and his travels across here. And they claim to be from the 10 tribes. You just start to paint this picture, which we've been doing for over 10 years already. He's painting this picture using data mapping and who's who. And you just see the clear trails of these individuals over the Himalayas and under the Himalayas. There's been a lot of academic works about it as well.
Right. It seems like the Pashtun is like, they're like they're like, we're this.
This is the base camp of the tribes of Israel.
So
this
like
is where
they
were
went
sent
there
to.
first,
Yeah.
and that was part of the Syrian Empire, the Assyrian
The
Empire.
Assyrian Empire.
Is Syrian as Assyrian the same thing?
No, different thing.
Okay,
Syria
good.
is there, and the Assyrians were
Okay,
a whole
gotcha.
other operation.
So the Assyrians put them over there, and
Yeah.
then they spread from there. So, could you take me to my original question with the African Americans? Is that part of the 10 tribes?
Not necessarily, because later on in the Tanakh, you see many hundreds of years later, there was exiles of Judah into Africa, many different waves of Judean exile into Africa. And there was even stories in the Tanakh of Judeans going into Egypt and saying they never had returned, and they stayed down there in Africa. And so there's a lot of different waves, and even Josephus says at the advent of the sacking of Rome, millions of Jews were sold into slaves in Africa. We already know there's a strong North African Jewish population from over 2,000 years ago.
Right.
You know, there's Jewish businessmen in Timbuktu, over the last 1,000 years, let's say. And so all of a sudden now you have in Western Africa a nation called the Igbo people, who say they're from the tribes of Israel. They're doing 8th-day circumcision and not eating pig and all these customs and traditions you'd find. They're also doing a lot of things that you wouldn't find amongst the house of Israel, but that's, the same with anyone who goes into exile. You'll pick up traditions. But the interesting thing is not only does the government of Israel recognize them on their website, official website report on the tribes of Israel of like potential people who seem likely to be from the seed of Israel. There's around, let's say, 60 or so practicing Jewish communities there now, like Orthodox, with tefillin and Torahs and taking on the laws. But this one tribe of 40 million people made up about 25% of the transatlantic slave trade. So now you're talking about this one tribe being spread all throughout the Americas from, the islands below Florida all the way up to the top, where slavery was. And America kept really good records, so we actually could see which cities got Igbo tribes.
So they would not, you say Igbo and Ebo, is that the same thing?
Right, spelled Igbo, but I think they pronounce it Ebo, like Hebo, like Hebrew.
Okay.
Ebo.
Oh.
This is what they
But you're saying they're not, nobody's saying they're from the 10 lost tribes.
No one's, right now it seems like they would have enough customs and traditions based on all the things put together. They have an ancestry to the Jewish people, not necessarily the 10 tribes, but there is legend amongst them that they come from the tribe of God, but there's no way to really know for sure at this point. We have to do a full DNA retroactive mapping somehow, from the DNA from the tombstones and where we have the tribes buried.
Right. So I'm going to ask a question because my kids were asking me this question.
Sure.
And I always say the basic answer, I'm wondering if I'm right or wrong about this, is that it's like, how are we all these different colors to choose?
It's very easy because there's so many different waves. I mean, it's a great question. First of all, the Mishnah says.
I'm saying me and you are very, very pale. We're a little red.
Sure.
The Mishnah, and then we got the Sephardi's, the Pashtuns. Let's say. I mean, we look different.
So the Mishnah says that the children of Israel, Negaim, the Mishnah, the second chapter, the first Mishnah, it says the children of Israel were not white. And they were not black. They were this boxwood color, this in-between color. But already, if you look at it, we don't know necessarily the genetics of all the ancient nations and all their colors. So you look at King David, right? The verse describes him as ruddy. There's different shades of ruddy. There's brown ruddy and there's white, red, and ruddy. But King David had ancestry from the Moabite genetics in him. So
the Moabites would be dark. No? Maybe I'm wrong. Okay.
These were all dark people back then.
Yeah.
There had to have been already light-skinned people at certain points, and you don't know. The Moabites weren't just a race of ethnic, color. These were a mix of all these different people in a nation. But fast forward, if you look at King Solomon, who had 1,000 wives. So do you think he had 1,000 wives of the same color? It's not possible. He had 1,000 wives from all different nations.
Right.
And then you start to look into the laws of conversion that happened afterwards. If Ruth the Moabite was a convert, from King David, all the different people that would have been coming in. So it seems like color already was a non-reality around 2,000 years ago for the children of Israel, all different colors. And then when you look at the exile, we're going into Europe, we're going into North Africa, we're going towards Afghanistan. Israelite men always took women from where they would go to and bring them into the houses and marry them. So the genetic mixing is just like putting a stew together and putting the pot on hot and being surprised that everything's melting into each other.
Right.
It's just what happens.
And it just happens. I remember reading that in the Roman during the Roman Empire, there was a point where a tenth of the Roman Empire was Jewish because of so much conversions.
Yeah.
So I mean, maybe that's something.
There was a ton of Roman converts and Greek converts. Likely, many of them didn't last, into the nation. A lot of people got lost also over the exile.
Right.
People who lasted mostly throughout the last 2,000 years are the ones who latched onto the Torah and transmitted with the Jewish communities. But there were some great sages who were converts. Onkelos was a convert, and Shemaiah and Avtalion. These were people, the pillars of the whole entire Torah stand on their shoulders. Rabbi Akiva's father was a convert.
Right.
So some of the greatest sages of Israel come from converted lines, which is a total normal thing. Moses took converts out of him when he left Egypt.
Okay, so before because I want to ask you more of a personal question, but I just want to know how you got into this. But before that, to go back to my first question with the absolute anti-Semitism I felt, and I felt like they were so angry at me that I am saying that I'm Jewish. That was the point. They would tell me I'm from the Khazars and stuff like that, but that was where is that coming from? Is that just coming from they need someone to be upset at, or what is it that?
Well, no. First of all, you have to
I've seen you speak to a lot of these guys.
Yeah, I got in a few debates, and then found a lot of people who didn't want to debate and wanted to work together and unite. So
right, so you probably got a much more of an inside view, and I was
the whole entire spectrum of the whole thing. And there's so much pain, first of all, going on there. They're still in the land of their captivity. It's like you still being in Nazi Germany, after the war, and still somehow a second class, type of citizen. You have to dig your way out of the, Nazi Germany, and you're like, wait a minute, you took my house, you took my money, you took this, and I'm starting from scratch, and this guy's driving a nice car, he's got a nice job on my back, So these guys were like, my ancestors were slaves here for 400 years in the South, and this guy whose family ran the cotton thing, he's got a private jet and he's going to Bahamas, and here we can't even afford McDonald's. So there's anger over there, and it's rightful anger. It's so messed up.
But is there a reason why towards the Jews? I don't know. Was it to
so
everybody?
Let's keep going. Now we're just digging on
that I totally
this
understand.
This is trauma towards the white man, basically, right?
Yeah.
And the Jew now.
Is it connected?
Yes, because the Jew is we got merged into, there's double angle here. First of all, we got merged into the white man thing. And what most African Americans may not even realize is we suffered under the white man for 2,000 years in Europe. It was brutal. We couldn't own land, and they were raping us and killing us and stealing our money. So it's not we got to team up. We have the same guy who was messing with us. And the second thing is, since they somewhere deep inside of their soul, they have this calling that they're from the children of Israel, whether it comes from Deuteronomy, where there's a prophecy that says you're going to be taken on ships to a land not your own. And have no price for you and be slaves. So where they identify with that, I think there's just something deeper. I don't need to look at Deuteronomy to try to force a prophecy or not. I'm 25% of the people who have the seed of Israel in this region sprinkled all across the Americas, and now we're seeing people spiritually coming out saying they're from the house of Israel. We're taught in our own Kabbalah, you and I, that when someone has that inside of them, it means they come from the house of Israel. When someone converts, we don't call him a convert. We say he was at Sinai, his soul got lost in the exile and came back. So I see this yearning to be part of the house of Israel, beautiful thing. But from their perspective, they're like, wait a minute, this is us. So who are you? Right. And you're the one with the power now. You're the white man with the power. You're holding our land. They just look at us as enemies. But most of that's coming from trauma, so they have to heal from that.
Right.
And there's a large, I think the minority of them, they're filled with hate. The majority of them are seeking it doesn't help when that guys like Kanye West stir the pot, but there's a lot of them seeking unification and clarity. And how do they have access somehow to the Torah and to Israel, which is really hard conversations to have with people who are not willing to convert because they believe that this is who they are. Why do I have to convert to something if I'm already that?
Right.
So it's very hard conversations. And there's a lot of solutions that are being worked on that make a lot of sense and have both sides, the African American community and the Jewish community, working hand in hand.
Well, I am curious. Okay, so why did you get into this? Where's that coming from? Tell me you're a boy from Jamaica Estates.
Yeah, it happened by accident a little bit, very by accident. But it turns out, later on, retroactively looking back, I had an ancestor who was involved in the search for the lost tribes of Israel in the 1700s.
Really?
Yeah, the Vilna Gaon, Rabbi Eliyahu Kramer.
Okay.
Talmidei Hagara wrote a letter to the 10 tribes. It's on Sefaria now. It's published. in their search, saying we can't get to the redemption of Israel until we unite with these people. So whoever's like praying for the Mashiach,
The Vilna Gaon wrote that.
his main students under his name authored this letter to the 10 tribes trying to find them. Rabbi Israel of Shklav wrote it, and
Who'd they send it to?
they sent it with a messenger in search of, there was known kingdoms of 10 tribes back in the 1700s. They knew somewhere across the Silk Road, down over mountains, there's the kingdom of Israel with wealth and gold and armies. And we need them because we're being raped in Europe and they're killing us. And we need them to come redeem us and take Israel together. Let's link up. This is what the letter said. It's a really emotional letter.
Did it get to anybody?
I don't believe the letter made it to them.
Wow.
I think the guy was like kidnapped in Yemen or something. It's a whole story.
Wait, so I got a really important question. Yeah. What's Sambatyon?
Sambatyon River.
Because that's a story I heard as a kid.
It's a great question. Sambatyon River is where Jewish people believe the 10 tribes are hiding behind the Sambatyon River.
Yeah, that's what I heard my whole life.
Until the Messiah comes, the Mashiach comes, they can come back out. And the Sambatyon River is this river that during 7 days of the week, it's 6 days of the week, it's throwing up rocks, so you can't pass it. And on the 7th day, the water rests, but it's Shabbat, so they can't cross. So they're basically stuck in prison there.
Catch 22.
So from the Jewish people's perspective, this is not talking about the 10 tribes of the northern kingdom. This is talking about a special category of Israelite called the Bnei Moshe, the children of Moses. So when you look in the Tanakh and the story of Judaism in the Gemara and the Talmud in 2,000 years, you don't see anything. And Judaism is all about descendancy, who you come from, like who you have any, It's like we don't see anything about the Bnei Moshe, the children of Moses. They don't play any significant role in the Tanakh or any future history. They just disappear from the whole thing. And so the Medrash teaches us, our sages teaches us from thousands of years ago, that the children of Moses didn't want to get involved in the politics of the Jewish people. Their job was to learn Torah and preserve the laws of Moses exactly as it was, and to hold smicha, transmission of like Moses' information legit. So when the temple and all this stuff was being built, they just like stayed on the side in their houses of study and didn't get involved in the politics of the nation, just studying. Wow. And when the sacking of the temple happened, the Medrash says that moment they were taken and placed somewhere in this hidden place until the end time when the Mashiach comes. They come back and bring back smicha to the Klal Yisrael, to the children of Israel, and teach us all the laws of Moses like as it was, perfectly intact. So we believe there's one place on the planet now, the Bnei Moshe still exists, these children of Moses, with all the customs and traditions of Moses, with the smicha.
So that has nothing to do with the 10 tribes?
Different than the 10 tribes, but they both activate at the same time. So at the time of the redemption, when the 10 tribes unite with Judah, the Bnei Moshe return and bring back smicha, which is rabbinic authority from Moses, which we don't have anymore. And
when you, you may believe it more than most because you've done all the research. I mean, I hear that it sounds like a fairy tale I grew up with.
There was a map based on his history that Hitler had. He was looking for the Bnei Moshe.
He was looking for them.
Yes, Hitler was looking for the Bnei Moshe, and after the war,
this guy would kill every single Jew. That was his point.
He knew these guys were like had the powers of Moses, like the wisdom of Moses. He was after them. This map made it into a famous yeshiva in Lakewood's hands after the war. There was an expedition. It was documented in Jewish magazines. I think it was Mishpacha magazine. They interviewed the guy. His name was Amir Dromi. He was the one that was sent to find this village from this map. Mm-hmm. The rabbis of Israel chose him at the time because he was already sent on expeditions towards India in the past to see if the wigs that the women were wearing, the hair was made from idol worship or not. So he was used to going across Silk Road missions. They sent this guy, and he ended up hiking through, Afghanistan and villages and all this stuff to get there. It's like a few days in car, then a few days on donkey, then a few days on foot to even get there. He was kidnapped by a village on the way of Pashtun, and they were gonna kill him or something. I thought he was like a spy. And they said, "Do you have any last words?" You could hear him talking about this. I interviewed him. It's on YouTube. He said, "Do you have any last words?" And he says, "I'm a Jew from Israel." And he says, "Shema." And they said to him, "You're a Jew from Israel? Like, what? You're our brother." And they freed him, and they sent him with, like, food and all this stuff and sent him on his way. He tells the story. It's creepy. But basically, he gets to this point where he believes that this map was pointing to, and the Chinese government was there, like, blocking the way in the middle of nowhere after all these hiking and stuff. They didn't let him go up to the only pass that would get there. And then after that, the winter comes and you can't even think about passing it. I met one other person who had done a lot of research on this and came up with his own map of where he thinks they are. I ended up putting Amir Dromi and this rabbi in a room together.
Right.
And with a big map on the wall, and they both pointed to the same place that they believed this was.
Why can't we do satellite imaging or something?
Believe you me, in my late hours when I can't sleep at night, I'm on Google Earth in the Himalayan, Afghan border mountains looking for signs of villagehood.
Really?
Sure.
Do you ever find
People
anything?
are scrolling on TikTok. I'm like in the mountains, like looking for so so I entertain
Wow.
myself.
So your ancestor got into this.
No,
What?
it wasn't his ancestors also. This
But you
is
got
thousands
into
of
this on
years.
your own. Like,
Not
how did?
so not realizing. So basically, I had a calling when I was in college to go to Israel and get farmland. I had something inside of me that surfaced that I had to do that.
Okay.
And I didn't even realize also that was like the Vilna Gaon's other main thing was like go to Israel and get land. But I didn't know how to get farmland. But I was in yeshiva studying, and I had this dream, and I kept talking about it. It was inside of me. Ended up reading a piece of advice from an ancient book. It was Eim Habanim Smecha, Rav Techtel, quoting ancient sources, had a guarantee to get farmland in Israel, like a guarantee, 100% guarantee, in our generation, not 100 years ago, but our generation. And so I followed the advice.
Okay. This is not going to be publicized advice. What?
No, it's simple advice, and everyone could try it. Because like I just wanted to call, like, sounds really disrespectful, like call God out, like, okay, you're gonna tell me this is guaranteed. Like, let's see it. Let me see.
Okay.
So it said basically, the first thing most people they complain that God never blesses them. Like, where's my blessing? God never blessed me. But we're taught God doesn't bless individuals. He blesses their handiwork, what you do with your hands. Like make something, and then God could bless that thing. So it's like a kli. And there's a verse we say, like our hands have to create the thing. So you have to make a kli, a vessel that could receive. That's step one. Step two is you have to do it with a group of friends who have unconditional love for each other, like a brotherhood of love. Step three is you have to have kavana, intention that this thing should be for the settlement of Israel. If you have these three things, you're guaranteed whatever kli you create will be successful in getting you this land in Israel.
Okay.
So got together with a few of my good friends that had love between each other, and we had to brainstorm an idea for a kli, for a vessel. And the first guy came up with the idea was make a beer company, a brewing company.
Okay.
And so I thought it was the greatest idea. I was like, oh, it sounds like great. We'll make a brewery in Israel, and we'll have a farm, we'll have beer. It'll be a great dream come true. So we went to Israel looking for land to have a brewery, and we went to all the moshavs and the kibbutzim asking if they can give us land. We could bring American capital, an idea, and all this stuff. But in Israel, it turns out that good ideas aren't like valued.
They don't care about a good idea.
We're a nation of people with good ideas, so it's like, oh, join the club. You have a great idea. I have an idea that that I could take you to the moon tomorrow, but I need $1 million. So what are you gonna do? So where's your $1 million, Harry? I'm like,
right.
Oh, I'm just a young guy with a dream. But while we were like getting tossed around and rejected everywhere, we found out there was 2 tribes in Israel from the lost tribes of Israel that had ancient beer recipes on them. The Ethiopians, who had an ancient mead called tej, and the B'nai Menashe from India, who had this like sake rice brew on them. So I stopped the first Ethiopian I saw on the street. I stopped the first B'nai Menashe I saw on the street, and I said, excuse me, I'm this young guy. I want to learn about this beer. Do you have a chief rabbi or someone or like a brewmaster you could introduce me to for the tribe? And the next thing you know, me and my friends are sitting with the brewmasters from each tribe, which happened to have been like the old ladies of the tribe. And they were teaching us these recipes. And we started to make them in bathtubs and et cetera, and scale it up. And we eventually realized, like, we have these great recipes. And
Are they good?
The Ethiopian honey, yeah, they're both delicious. Like, the most delicious stuff, yeah. Like bubbly.
Wow, okay.
Sparkly. And we ended up bringing the company to America, called it Lost Tribes Beverage, and let's start it here and create some perceived value. So when we go back to Israel, they'll think we're like an American company. That's legit.
Right.
Seems like a good strategy. And we started making like kegs and like low-key home batches, and then we ended up getting at a Matisyahu concert to like give out samples. And Matisyahu liked it, and the caterer at the concert was like, "Oh, this is great," and he booked us for the Waldorf Astoria for Pesach. It was kosher for Pesach. We didn't even have like, we didn't have like commercial batches. We had to like get the whole thing custom. We had a mashgiach come and like the whole thing. We did it perfect.
This is in Israel.
This was in Waldorf, Orlando.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Pesach program.
Okay.
So I bring 6 cases down there and I'm serving, and it turns out there was one guy there who was like a real tzaddik, a real righteous guy, and he happened to have been like a real estate mogul, and he kept coming back and he enjoyed it and he liked it. And he spoke to us, and he liked our story, and we told him that we're looking for investors for here and there. And he said, guys, don't worry. After holiday, I'll meet you. I want to help you out and give you some seed funding. which is really nice. And we got to launch the company. We ended up contract brewing upstate New York and putting up big batches. Then we ended up getting in touch with like these like young CEOs in New York City at the time, where a lot of them were Jewish, you know, like WeWork and Tumblr and all this stuff.
Right.
So we ended up doing a beer pong tournament between all the cool companies in New York. So between Twitter, Tumblr, Google Glass, Vimeo, BuzzFeed, College Humor, all these companies, we were hosting intercompany beer pong tournaments with Lost Tribes beer.
With Lost Tribes beer.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a crazy story.
That's wild.
And we didn't even mean to do it. It was all just like unfolding. And then we were in every WeWork in New York for a time. We were in the big bars and restaurants and 7-Eleven here. We like got all these accounts. We're like 60 or 70 big accounts. And we weren't even trying to make a beer company. We were just trying to get a farm in Israel. But it was like, it just like kept dragging out and growing. And it was so funny. And then the email started coming in. Because if you're typing in Lost Tribes of Israel, our beer company was coming up first. And that's when we started getting all reached out from Afghanistan and Nigeria and all these places.
They were reaching out to you?
Yeah, they were sending us emails like every day from all over the world.
Where are they sending you?
We're from the Tribes of Israel. Here's our customs. Here's our traditions. Here's my family history. Here's the family tree. Sending us all this stuff. And I didn't have a clue this was even like a thing. I was like, what? In Afghanistan? I couldn't believe it. It was like such a... And so I started doing a lot of research in it, meeting all the scholars, professors, you know, the books, documentaries, started like downloading all the information, became really fascinated by it, started going on like Twitter and typing in tribe names of Afghanistan and making friends out there and asking them, is it true? And like realizing this is a super serious thing. And eventually I got a lot of knowledge on the topic, and this yeshiva in Jerusalem asked me to give a lecture on it. And I have stage fright, so I don't even like giving lectures. But I had a rabbi that once told me that anytime you're going to speak or do anything, you have to get a professional camera and a professional microphone. If you're going to speak and give Torah and you're going to film it like without professional equipment, it's like just desecrating God's name. He's like, do it legit.
Wow, okay.
You know, he's like very serious about quality. So I was like, all right. I called my friend who was like a film master. I had him set up his thing. It may have been Josh Fleischer at the time, I have to think, you know, film master. Filming me and all this stuff. And so I put the film on YouTube of me giving a lecture on this topic. You know, the Nigerians, transatlantic slave trade, Africa. Maybe I had a few hundred views, nothing too crazy. But then an African-American saw it, and it was the first time a Jewish rabbi had validated the transatlantic slave trade narrative, connecting it to the one tribe that the government of Israel is already recognizing. So I didn't even do anything controversial. I'm just stating like what's going on, like the elephant in the room.
Right.
I didn't even give my own opinion on the matter. I was like, this is what's going on. And they took that clip and they put it on Facebook, this African-American group.
Right.
And it had about 1 million something views in like a day or two. And all from African-Americans.
Were they upset about it or excited?
They were super excited. They were like, they were happy.
Do
like,
some confirmation.
They thought I was going to get in trouble. Like I was going out on a limb for them. And I'm like, no, this is the people I spoke to thought it was legit. I was like, no, I didn't risk anything for this. You know, my people weren't upset at me. The Jewish people weren't upset at me. So they thought I was like being so brave to talk about it. But for me, I just felt it was a very normal thing to talk about. And that's when someone contacted me. You know, I was just in Israel drinking a beer with my friends and Thursday night at Mishmar, singing songs and talking Torah, you know, like for Brangen.
Right.
My phone rings. This Rabbi Harry. I go, yeah, this is me. He says, do you want to debate our guy, like the best? He's like the champion of the community right now, of the community of consciousness of the African-American people. His brother Polite. You want to debate him?
I saw that. I thought his name is awesome.
Yeah, so I was like, I didn't know what I was getting myself into, but I was like, sure, I'll debate whoever you want to debate. Like, let's go. And then the next day I woke up and there was like flyers everywhere and like Harlem and stuff. You know, the great debates happening and emails and internet and social network. Like my rabbi like sent me an email. He's like, I saw this flyer. It's like, it can't be true. He's like, can't be doing this. This is like too crazy. And I'm like, Rabbi, there's no turning back now. Like I can't back down. Like I'm in this great debate now. And then we had a weigh-in, which also had, you know, hundreds of thousands of views on YouTube, and then like 1 million here combined on Facebook. And it was me talking to the guys, and they tried to get me very angry, and they tried to rile me up. And, you know, it was like I wasn't having any of it. I was just giving them like...
You seem so calm. I saw with one video you're around like a minivan, and they're going at you, trying to get you going.
Yeah, because...
There's just a lot of love coming out of you.
We have a lot of love coming at us for thousands of years, so it's just expressing in me because I'm alive right now. So we don't get sucked into other people's emotional things. Like we're very logical. Like what is going on?
Well, you're from the Vilna Gaon, man.
Sure.
Utilizing that a bit.
Exactly. So
I like that. Wait, so you're saying basically this was like a wave that just took you.
yeah,
Like I love that.
so intense, and I was like, I didn't have an option.
It just kept going.
Just kept going, and now it's like,
Okay, okay. So we're gonna get into some other stuff, but it's wild because I'm like fascinated by all this stuff, but I can't see myself being like dragged along this wave. Like I almost feel like I could touch on little topics and get excited, but the way you just went with it, like at some point, were you married at this point?
yeah.
So is your wife like, hey, you being crazy here? Like, take a chill.
The most important thing is like I try to serve my wife and give her the best life possible. So
Good move.
like my wife has just a green light to live her best life. What does she need for her chill? Like, what do you want? What is it? Like, just lay it all out. I will provide it for you. I'll
Okay.
give you all these things. It's like I don't work on my life or my things until like I give her all the things she needs for hers. But obviously, I gotta level up. I gotta keep leveling up and keep providing. But
Right.
I try to create, happy wife, happy life. So I feel like if she's got all of her things, she lets me do my things on the side, like these side missions. I don't bring it home.
You don't bring it home.
No, I don't bring it home.
Okay.
Leave it at the door.
Leave it at the door.
Come
Okay.
home, regular husband, got to tuck some kids in, hang out, normal stuff.
Okay, that's awesome. Okay, so now, okay, I mean, I have a million questions, but I wanted to ask you more about the psychedelic stuff. So,
Blame you, yeah.
because I mean, this pod is more about like healing and self-healing and growth and a lot of mental health stuff and all that. That's where it's been. Although I want to go to the 10 Lost Tribes, like I'm ready to go there. The whole podcast just switch to that for like a couple of months, but we'll see. Because I'm like I have a million questions, but let me ask you about. So, at what point you also have some very interesting thoughts on psychedelics, which are pretty new to me, like in the sense where, I mean, I've been talking about it with some friends for probably 15 years, but I myself had my first experience, I think, 7 years ago or 8 years ago, and it's had a massive impact in my life, and it's been a very controversial issue in my life because I work with substance abuse and recovery. And I see it helping so many people, but it's a very controversial issue in a community which is saying don't use any drugs. And I'm trying to figure out how to, because I have a lot of gratitude, and I understand how amazing the recovery community is, and I see some holes where they're missing things, and I've seen the psychedelic stuff fill those holes in a lot of ways. So I like integrating everything, like what I was talking about before with you. Like you're integrating, all these different approaches into like a grand idea of life. But I see it as, so for me, it's been hard. Like it took a while for me to even share with the world that I even went to a ceremony and experienced that journey, So so you have some spiritual views about it. Where did your journey with the psychedelics start, and where are you with this 30-second elevator pitch that takes 2 hours again? Let me hear it.
Yeah. First of all, just before I start, like the main issue of this controversy you're talking about is like the stigma that we're even calling psychedelic plant medicines drugs.
Right. So that's something.
We really have to compartmentalize, and we really need to use discernment right now more than ever of what's what. And so we have to really say, things that are coming from laboratories, from for-profit companies that are in that health field, those could be termed as drugs, including like alcohol and stuff. Things that come from the earth, that have healing powers, those are called plant medicines.
Okay, so
We'll get there, though.
We'll get there, but I will say this. I'm not very hung up on the drug topic. The community I'm in is.
Well, these pills and stuff are killing people.
Yeah, they're killing people, but I'm not even hung up about that. I'm really fighting addiction.
Okay.
And I'm not, or dependency, or, there's different words for it now, but I don't really have a problem with any of the things. Mm-hmm. Meaning there is good purpose for opium. There's good purpose for all these things.
Injured in war,
right?
Opium's the greatest.
So I don't have any issues with any of the things. I have issues with abuse of those things and how they take us out of this world.
And also how
Yeah.
America deals with like laws and lobbying. The war on drugs was, what it was attacking, and then allowing doctors to prescribe certain things to people, and we really got messed with by some companies.
Yeah.
We got stuck in a whole business model from someone else.
Well, there's a whole agenda, but I have seen, and we didn't go into even the good stuff of psychedelics yet, but I have seen some people really, in my opinion, abuse psychedelics.
Sure.
I mean, like I would say, hey, take a chill, man. Come back to us.
Sure.
You're not using it as healing anymore. So where does it start?
Yeah, I'll tell you how it started. But you may lose someone's like mind a little bit, but you're not going to find them on the street like shaking with cuts all over their face, like looking for the next mushroom. They just may be in outer space, but each their own. But
it's different.
Yeah, it's a little different. So I started. My whole thing started just in high school. In America, just being an American. They were testing us for cannabis use, drug testing us, my high school. And we were all on the hockey team, that's what we were doing.
Right.
And it was really...
It's like Yeshiva League?
Yeah.
All right.
I was in Yeshiva League.
Okay.
The whole yeshiva, at that time, that's what all the cool kids were doing, and you didn't have an option. You had to smoke pot with the other guys.
Was it ice hockey?
This was gym hockey.
Gym
Yeshiva
hockey.
League gym hockey.
Okay.
And, we kind of took advantage of the chill, and we were, going to school like this, and all day long we're just having fun. And the school caught on, and they started to drug test us. And so then the first thing I did was, made my drug counselor feel pretty bad, because I was like, we used to just smoke pot and play video games and giggle, and now you're, making us go clean. So my friends are drinking alcohol and going to clubs in the city and, dating non-Jewish girls. Thanks for ruining us. And, he's getting angry, and he's fighting with his mom now. You really just took a generation of kids just trying to listen to Grateful Dead and giggle and, sent us to the world where we have to find other vices. So it's I don't know. I was just, a bully to her. I made her feel really bad.
That's terrible.
I know. I have to call her one day. She had, definitely, a watery tear in her eye from that. I was like, what are you doing to us? And so we had to find something that we can consume.
Kids are really manipulative.
Yeah, but I think I had a good point nonetheless, because it really was happening. Because kids, instead of, because the issue wasn't, people, we were, like you're saying, dependency. Kids were drinking alcohol instead of their joints, and it was alcohol's not that good for you every day, and the joint was, not that good for you either, but at the time, much less worse. So,
right.
But then we had to find something that wouldn't show up on drug tests in high school. So it was either between mushrooms or crystal meth. And we didn't know what crystal meth was except for the commercials telling us not to take crystal meth.
Right.
So we're like, well, it must be something good if they're telling us not to take it. Thank God we never tried that. But the mushrooms didn't show up on drug tests.
Those commercials always made me want to try everything.
And it has the name Crystal in it. And crystals are so cool. It's
Wait, so then you started with the mushrooms?
You can't test for mushrooms.
Right.
And so we didn't know what it was, but we just knew you couldn't test for it. So we had someone one time get it.
If a guy finds God in one day, you're on mushrooms. That's a test. Yeah. Hello, what's going on here?
So this was soon in high school. So we all got together at someone's house one weekend. The parents weren't home, and we all ate this mushrooms and stuff, thinking we just normally we just chill. And the next thing you know, we have an 8-hour experience of the most intense experience of our life. And it was certainly changing, and it led us down to a path to realize there's a very powerful tool for mind exploration. And so at a very young age in high school, my friends and I would dibble-dabble in that, and that's where it started for me. Eventually, I grew out of it, just finding my own peace from it and learning how to get high on playing my role on planet Earth. Just being alive is fascinating, and being down here where I could be a partner in creation to me was fascinating. So I didn't need a journey up there anymore. But being around so many people who are broken in my community and in the world, how could you be a compassionate person and withhold from them the knowledge that there's something that can help alleviate the pain you're feeling in your brain, or this dependency you're putting on your day-to-day habits? You could take a break from all this stuff with this little mushroom that our ancestors have been eating for thousands of years, humanity, that is, for healing. So I wasn't like a shaman or anything, but I was just someone who was very proactive in helping people find legal places to do these things. when they were suffering, like people who are addicted to drugs or suicidal or stuff like this, like gotta get them to a clinic where they could do this legally. And if they can't afford it, go to Jewish philanthropy, and I would help raise money for their plane tickets and the treatment costs and stuff. And so this started for me about 20 years ago, this level of compassion and love for people suffering. So it wasn't like I was going to someone like, hey, you want to find God, like eat this mushroom.
Right.
I'm not looking for trouble. I was like, oh, you're scratching your skin off your face because you don't want to be alive anymore? Bro, we got to heal.
So how did it go?
Oh, it goes amazing. For the most part, some people have preconditions that don't work well with psychedelics, like bipolar or schizophrenia stuff, maybe not be best for it.
Mm-hmm.
But the people who are addicted to alcohol and drugs or suicidal in this, I was looking at an 80 to 90% success rate at changing people's lives and radical short-term turnarounds just through these type of interventions. And these are always situations where the family's involved and community's involved and the rabbi's involved. It's not like a shady thing anymore where we have to sneak a guy a mushroom. It's like, it's life or death, and I'm sure you buried a lot of people. Yeah. I buried a lot of people.
Yeah.
Jewish people are burying tons of people from the battle against mental health now with addiction and suicide and stuff. So this was...
But is it mainly with psilocybin was your main thing, or was there...
I think there's different psychedelics for different things people are going through. So, in the spectrum of psychedelics between the, iboga, ketamine, psilocybin, DMT, ayahuasca, San Pedro, all these different spectrums really are tailored for different people going through different things. And part of a healer... their job is to identify really what are you going through, and can we afford with your mental health to put you into a 6-hour trip? Maybe a DMT experience, which is 15 minutes long, would be better suited for you because it can give you a powerful reset, but not get you stuck into another world we don't know if you'll be able to handle so well.
Right.
Or maybe, you're okay and you need 6 hours of work inside of your mind. 15 minutes is not enough. There has to be these type of assessments.
Who decides that? That's a tricky one.
There are certain people out there who do healing work and they're experts in professionals.
Want seltzer, by the way?
It's a kind gesture. I don't know if I was coming across groggily.
I'm very thirsty.
I am a little bit thirsty too.
Okay.
So I appreciate it.
No, is there a training for this? Because
sure. I mean, first of all, you have organizations like MAPS out there, which has protocols and stuff for psychedelics, but they're working with their field of what they're experts in. They're doing their MDMA therapies now and all this. So there's no one-stop shop. I don't think professionally and legally, etc. But there's different experts around the world who lend their time and their knowledge and their resources, and when they're contacted, they ask you questions and learn about you, and they make a recommendation of a place where this medicine is legal, where you could travel to and be in the care of doctors and nurses and experience these medicines.
Right.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah, no, I definitely, we've talked a little bit on the podcast about.
It's very bubbly.
You know what it says here? It says here, I don't know, I thought it said it. What does it say on Bear Mayo? Highly carbonated? This is highly carbonated seltzer.
Wow.
I'm a big seltzer fan. We got a new seltzer machine in my other organization, our place. So, anyway. But you had a perspective that I was really curious about because, I see my experience has been a healer for me, for people that I love and people that I work with. I have very often done some really great work with this, obviously with shamans that I trust and stuff like that. But you have a spiritual, like that there's some historical, I've heard people talk about it, but I've heard you mention it, that that we have some sort of tradition in Judaism with psychedelics. And I don't know much about that.
Sure.
Too much?
No, it's another 30-second elevator pitch.
Yeah, because that's another thing that you talk about.
Yeah. But that's not connected to the compassionate use of psychedelics for the mental health situation today. Two separate things.
Okay.
But it happens to be...
No, I'll tell you why. Because a lot... mean, let's say what I went through and a lot of other people go through, I explain it in, some people say like, oh, let's say I done ayahuasca, so it's like Mother Aya, like it's like there's a spiritual being that's there, and I didn't experience that. I experienced like my going into my mind and my soul, whatever it was, like myself, and discovering it. And then some people say there's a spiritual.
No, so yeah.
Okay, you know more about
There's like
this.
a divine feminine aspect that these tribes in South America are putting on the ayahuasca. But for us, it's from our perspective, it's like we're source heavy people. So like, who says Mother Ayahuasca? How do they know? Like, what are they? So if we don't have like a source that we could trust, it's just we leave it at there and we take what we can get from it. So it's great medicine.
Right.
But it happens to be the main chemical of the ayahuasca brew is DMT, dimethyltryptamine.
Right.
Which, from my research, I'm suggesting, and I wrote a theory, of that this chemical plays a role in the people of Israel also in our narrative, the same chemical.
30-second.
Well, it just starts off in the creation
1 minute
story.
elevator pitch.
On day 1 of creation, there's light is created. And on day 4 of creation, the sun and the moon are created.
Right.
So what was the light of day 1? If it wasn't the sun and the moon.
Dude. That's trippy. No, actually, that's the way I explain that it couldn't have been one day.
Well, that for sure how we know it's a different theory because there's no sun and the moon until day 4, so there's no 24 hours. That explains a lot of
I always thought of it as a spiritual light, but okay.
Perhaps this light our sages teach us was the light of the mind that Adam was experiencing. That there's a light inside of our brain that takes us to another place of another dimension, so to say, of existence. And at the time of that sin, our sages teach us that the sin of Adam, that light was like sucked into the earth, into the plants themselves in the form of nitzotzot, sparks, into the earth, which we refer to as the klipa. And the concentration of these sparks was in Egypt. So the purpose of forming Israel was to actually go and extract these sparks from Egypt. This is all from the Kabbalah, like straight Kabbalah 101, right?
This is Zohar.
101, yeah. This is from the Zohar, then the Arizal, and then the Baal Shem Tov like simplifies it for us. But this is just 2,000 years of like unarguable Jewish reality. What I'm saying right now, the sparks were sucked into the earth in the form of plant matter, and the concentration of them was in Egypt. So the purpose of the people of Israel was to go extract these sparks. So in Yaakov, Jacob gets tapped to become called Israel to like activate the nation. He has a metaphysical battle, according to the Rambam, with the angel of Esau. And after he wins the battle, he names the place Peniel. Kira iti Hashem panim el panim, because I saw God face to face. And Peniel in Hebrew means Peniel, the face of God, but we have a gland inside of our brain, the pineal gland, which is like an eyeball lodged in the middle of our head, which is light sensitive, structured like an eyeball.
Because it looks like an eyeball.
Yeah, and I believe it also has some type of formation of like cornea and rods, that it would look like it would be an eyeball in the middle of our head. And it secretes melatonin when we sleep at night and DMT, dimethyltryptamine. Naturally flowing through your body. So you see a gland in our brain that endogenously produces this one chemical that now we believe, we'll get to there, but potentially whatever chemical we once had in our minds is now in the earth. So we show up to Egypt to go get these sparks out, but we show up with all these acacia trees. We bring this whole acacia field with us and plant it when we get there. And acacias were number one.
Wait, we brought the acacia trees?
Israel brought acacia with them to Egypt.
Okay.
And we planted it.
Writes that somewhere?
Yes.
I don't remember that.
Yes, it's in the verses, and the Rashi speaks about it, saying, when we leave with the acacia, Rashi's like, where'd the acacia come from? And he explains that Jacob instructed the children of Israel to bring the acacia with them when they got there. And furthermore, the children of Israel were taught that would stare at the acacia for the 200 years that they were slaves, and they would get faith that there would be a redemption just by staring at the trees. It would give them hope.
Okay.
But what Jewish people don't realize, which I found super fascinating, is that at the time of the children of Israel showing up to Egypt before our slavery, the Egyptians were worshipping the gods Horus and Osiris, who were said to have been born from the acacia tree. So the ancient Egyptian gods come from the acacia tree, and we're rolling into Egypt with our own acacia trees. But the purpose we're going there is to extract sparks from them from the light of Adam that had been dormant there.
Why do we have to bring acacia trees if they already had acacia trees?
Yeah, they were worshiping the acacia trees, but it wasn't like we had access to their acacia trees. 'Cause
Gotcha.
when we left, we cut down our whole entire
So
forest.
you need acacia trees that they didn't worship.
That's a good svara, that we needed the trees that weren't used for idol worship, because we know that certain lulavs that come from regions that are used for idol worship aren't kosher lulavs. We can't use them.
And you mentioned before the India wigs or whatever.
Sure. I think it's a genius contribution you made to the theory, but we'll have to look into it. We can't suggest things. We have to find sources.
No, that's it.
I mean, we have to suggest things, but we also have to find sources to prove what we're suggesting.
Okay.
So
they brought the acacia trees down.
Yeah.
That's the acacia trees that they built the Mishkan with.
Right.
That's why they asked. Oh, now I'm remembering.
We leave with the
They asked how they get the acacia trees.
Yeah. How'd we get all this wood for the Mishkan?
Right, for they're carrying, and why are they carrying it? Maybe that's the other. Was that a question? Because I always wonder that. Wait,
how
they didn't even know they were making a Mishkan.
That's why they had emunah, they had faith.
Just bringing.
Jacob told them, "Bring them. You're going to do something.
Bring these acacias. Okay.
Bring it, plant it, and when you
how do you say acacia in the
I'd
Hebrew?
say shitim.
I'd say shitim. Okay.
Which is like all over, in the
it's everywhere.
Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai's mystical songs. This is Atzei Shitim Om Dim Na 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 Na. That's a shitim. You know the song?
No.
Bar Yochai.
That's in it? I always ignore all the other words.
Sure.
I just remember Bar Yochai.
Speaking about the Atzei Shitim.
There we go. But I don't remember the Atzei Shitim part. Okay.
Yeah, Atzei Shitim Om Dim. And it's a Kabbalistic concept, but
right.
We bring it, and we bring it into the desert with us, and the whole story culminates and peaks with the building of the temple in Jerusalem, the Temple of Solomon. This is like the purpose of settling the land of Israel. It's like it's all culminating, it's all peaking, and in the temple, the peak of the temple is the Kodesh Kodashim, the Holy of Holies on Yom Kippur, where the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, goes in there. And first of all, the Talmud says the daughter of the high priest is called Bat Paniel, the daughter of Paniel. And like, why do we call him daughter of Paniel? Because she's the daughter of the man who goes in the innermost chamber, So now the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur has to go in this room to rectify the sin of Adam and Eve, which was the losing of this light of the mind. And so the Rambam says, first of all, he goes in the room with a pan of hot coals made from atzei shitim, from the acacia tree, and then a pan of blended incense.
The coals are burnt acacia coals?
Coals were made from wood back then, but I'm theorizing from sources that I put together in this book. These weren't just regular charcoal coals. These were super made structural hash coal type of coals. Like they'll burn, and smoke and chemicals, and so I think they were concentrated coals, something about them. And we know the coals had the power to heal because there's a story later in the Tanakh where the angel takes the coals with the tongs from the altar and touches it to the prophet's lips, and it uses a language that it purifies him, like the same purification that the Kohen goes through when he's rectifying the sin of Adam, standing in a room. He puts the coals on the floor and then 2 hand scoops of incense on top of the coals. And the Rambam says, when the cloud of smoke bursts into this room, this airtight room, he has to wait for the whole entire room to become completely filled with smoke.
It's hotboxing it.
Correct. And at that point, he's rectified the sin of Adam and Eve. So we have to ask as Jews, what does the inhalation of plant extract smoke have anything to do with the rectification of the sin? But when we realize that the same chemical that we should be endogenously producing inside of our brain naturally to take us to elevated states of consciousness is now found in plant matter that we have to inhale from the same exact plant that ancient Egypt was worshipping. And we said we had to go there at the first place to extract the sparks, so it's like...
So you're saying that DMT is in the acacia?
DMT's in acacia tree, yeah.
Right, sure. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Do people use the DMT from acacia? Do they know how to extract that? Do they?
Certainly.
Oh, okay. So you're saying that he went to some elevated level of consciousness because of the smoke?
The high priest of Israel, for sure.
Heavy, man.
Yeah, even forgetting just the acacia tree and the DMT, just the regular things in the incense that he was burning would obviously take him to, between the frankincense and the myrrh and the cinnamon, all this stuff would take him to a very high state of consciousness.
Wait, so, okay, first of all, 2 questions. One is going to seem irrelevant, maybe. The story of Moshe Rabbeinu when he gets a choice between gold and the coals, was that acacia coals?
It's a super duper question.
Yeah, it seems like it must be connected. I mean, you might want to figure out.
I'm gonna wait for.
I don't go too far, but I just
no,
came
it's
to
good.
my
I'm
head.
gonna wait for ChatGPT 4 AI. I'll that's AI.
Explain all
question,
that.
Yeah.
Wow. So this theory, I mean, it's just taking a lot of text and putting it together. And are there anybody else?
Very text heavy, yeah.
Have you brought this to like super? I mean, to me, I'm like, wow, I'm in.
So I don't want to name drop right now, but I've read a 60-page manuscript, source heavy, and I've showed it to a whole plethora of different rabbis from different spectrums.
Right.
And the Hebrew word is cholek, like to disagree. No one was cholek on it yet. No one disagreed with it yet, because it's over people's heads. Like you'd have to have sources to outsource my sources. But so many sources that it's like an elephant in the room. Another one. How could you argue with your sages? Like I'm just DJing.
So
I didn't make anything new.
Let me break some down because my mind is a little blown right now. So let me just break some. Ellie, if you have any questions here, kick in. Okay, so just in layman's terms, we're talking about something about the original sin is connected to this DMT, this pineal gland, or is that just plant went into the ground?
Just, we don't understand all of it, but just the fact that there's the same chemical found inside of our brain that's found in the plants of the Torah, and we're taught that the light of our brain was once there during our awake state is now found in the plants of the earth. There's something of interest there. And now that we only secrete this chemical in our dream state, and the Talmud says that dreaming is 1/60th of prophecy, so we can connect this prophetic state to this chemical through this whole thing. And basically, we have to do research. This is like maybe AOL 1994, and like we need to get to Facebook 2020. Like a lot of work has to go to evolve. But I think we're just laying the groundwork for it right now.
Okay, what I like is that you don't take leaps. I like that you are sticking with like what you could prove.
Yeah.
Like I'm throwing you some little bits. You're like, that sounds cute, but I'm not going there until I have
We need sources for everything.
Okay, I really like that. Is there a tradition that we have of our ancestors, meaning the Jewish ancestors, involving themselves besides for this, like the Kohen Gadol, involving themselves in use of psychedelics or anything like that? Is that something you looked into? I don't know.
Yes, I did look into it, but when the temple worship stopped and our knowledge of plants and the combination of plants stopped, we went into what's called exile, where we could only pray about them. So the Israelites, every single day before prayer, pray about plant extracts being combined together, the Ketoret.
Yeah.
So I'm like, it's sad. Like we're yearning for plants. We're yearning for the combination of plants and the oils from them, and to put them on our bodies and to feel their beautiful effects. It's just we're crying for it for thousands of years. So,
which is pretty wild. But do you know if anybody who's ever taken those plants and put it together and see if we had any effects? Or
yeah. No.
The Ketoras and all that stuff.
Yeah, so there was a professor, I think Danny Nemu, I think it's NEMU, who published, he's a professor in a university in England, published a report on what parts of the brains would get activated and affected by each plant, and then what would happen when they were combined together, what it would do to the brain. And it was the most fascinating study ever. I recommend everyone read it. It was mind-blowing. But there was one report of the Ketorah being found in Israel by the Vendel Jones exploration team. If you don't know who Vendel Jones is, he was the guy who Indiana Jones was based off of. He was a real explorer looking for the lost ark. He was a wealthy Christian in Israel, and I think he was involved in the finding the Dead Sea Scrolls, but they found Ketoret incense, temple incense, and I was able to interview his son, Vendel Jones' son, and two different rabbis at different points who are on this expedition. And I was able to confirm the story from three different people, me asking my hard questions, that this Ketoret, this orange substance, it made it to Texas somehow, so it's like in a safe place somewhere in Texas. Really? And there was an inhalation of it by one of the rabbis, and who did describe getting extremely high in a way he couldn't reconcile.
Just smelling it?
No, it's burning and inhaling.
Oh, okay.
It's not like I heard the story from someone else. I asked the guy who was the guy who inhaled it,
really?
His experience. But then I asked Vendel Jones' sons about the story, and I asked the other rabbi who had nothing to do with it, like, it's just like, got the story. I can't tell you if it's true. I could just tell you it's 3 people who I've asked. And they did DNA testing on this Ketoret, and it had 2 more chemical compounds than it's supposed to have had if it was the actual Ketoret. But then they showed it had 2 extra types of cinnamon in it. So this researcher from England who had the report and did this whole thing, he showed cinnamon acts as like a drug blocker, knocker-outer. So basically you have chemicals in your body that block drugs from coming in.
Right.
And cinnamon like disables them. So it allows chemicals to come in, like opens pores, makes you porous, and allows certain chemicals to come in. So putting cinnamon in the Ketoret would have activated other components. So that's why he speaks about the combination of them is so scientific, how cinnamon gets its way in there. But he showed that the cinnamon of the Middle East at the time only blocks like 7 out of 9 of those receptors. And there's 2 other cinnamons that block the other 2, but they're found in the Far East down the Silk Road by China. And he says those 2 other cinnamons were in this Ketoret from the temple. So the Israelites were getting cinnamon down from the Far East to mix with their temple incense. And it's scientifically genius that these cinnamons do stuff to certain reactors in our body that the other local cinnamon wouldn't have. So the amount of science involved in the incense worship of the people of Israel is staggering. And so that's why I recommend people read this report. It was done very well.
Wow.
It speaks about the GABA receptors in the brain and what flows, what doesn't flow.
Where do you find that?
I would just, I don't know, I would just Google it. He's like a nice guy. You could probably message him on Facebook and ask him for it. Professor Danny Nemu.
Okay.
He wrote a whole entire thing, and it's just like, gives me the chills reading it.
Okay. So
cool.
Wow. That's okay. I once heard a theory that Moshe Rabbeinu was when he was seeing the burning bush and it wasn't burning was
Sure.
somehow
Moses grew
some
up
sort of
in
psychedelic thing.
Pharaoh's house, where all the priests there were doing things to the mind with mind-altering plants. Ancient Egypt was known for doing this, and Moses growing up now, so he probably knew about all this. But at the same time, the endogenous production of psychoactive chemicals, the fact that we could have psychedelic experiences without taking plants or without stimulants, just naturally, we can't rule out that Moses was having a psychedelic experience naturally as well. So,
Right. Okay. I'm not gonna go there because I feel like
it's speculation. I don't need to speculate right now because we have so much that we do see. Like, let's focus on that. And like, was Moses?
So how do
there?
Okay. So
No.
how do psychedelics heal you? Like how does that happen?
Understanding, like the easy term you just tell people who don't want to talk science is like if you have a clogged sink and you pour Drano down the sink, it unclogs the sink. So basically, one of the ways out of the many ways psychedelics could heal you is that we're storing traumas on our neurological pathways in the frontal cortex of our brain. So if like a dog bites,
do that again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Go on. Dogs bite you.
Right? Why?
No, because I understand, but I don't think. No, I don't understand.
Right.
You explain it.
So when a dog bites you when you're 4 years old, your brain makes a memory saying dogs are dangerous, avoid them.
Right.
To protect you. Your brain's got your back. Your brain's like your best friend, so your brain's going to protect you. So your brain will, for the rest of your life, have a trauma towards dogs. When you hear a dog bark, you get scared because your brain's like, oh, remember, they're not safe. And it writes all dogs off to protect you. It's going to cut dogs off.
Right.
And that's how your brain works. So it's like stored on this frontal part of your brain on your neurological network. So when you process emotions, it has to like filter through all your safety keepings from all the traumas that we have. And the psychedelics allows, first of all, it hyperactivates this part of the brain, acting as the Drano. So like things stored there like get flushed. So you have the ability to reprocess a lot during this time of what is real and what's not for you. Like, who are you? What's your personality? Are you this way because this happened to you as a child? But that's not fair. You shouldn't have to suffer for the rest of your life because this one person did something bad to you. So you get to like let go, literally, and move on. But the psychedelics are doing like a ton more. The left side of the brain is starting to create patterns with the right side of the brain in a way that's not happening day to day. So you're able to take a lot of your creativity and a lot of thoughts and like bring it into action and implement and all these things. So it's between the processing and the activation of different dormant parts of the mind and the brain. You just have a whole new window to explore.
Well, I had an
And
interesting.
I did probably sorry about that. I probably didn't even give such a
No,
I'm not a
well, there's a lot of
scientist.
good things you're saying, but
Yeah, there's a
I
lot
don't know
more
how it
probably.
works. But I could
Yeah.
tell you when I had done a ceremony years ago that I was mentioning before. A guy that was at the ceremony with me, he was terrified of dogs. You're saying this story about dogs. Terrified of dogs, and the guy I did it with has a big dog, and he's like, take the dog out. He's like, no, this dog is staying. Whatever. The shaman was not allowing the dog to leave, but the dog sat in a different area of the room. And at the end of the ceremony, when we all came out, this dog was lying on that guy's lap, and this guy's petting the dog. He's been absolutely terrified of dogs his whole life. Just this funny example that you said. And he said that he remembered why. He always thought a dog bit him, which did. A dog bit him when he was a kid, and he was afraid of dogs forever. And he went back in the trip to the time where he actually started his fear of dogs. He said he had an old man who lived in his neighborhood. He used to go visit him. And the old man had a dog. And he would play with the dog, and he would visit this man and take the dog for walks. And one day he showed up, and they were like, no, the old man's dead. And they just, like, sent him home. Like, they were like, no, he's not here anymore. And they just closed the door in his face. And, like, he had this whole bond with this dog and the old man, and it just ripped away from him. And nobody even processed it with him. And he had this trauma of, like, this separation that he just couldn't deal with dogs anymore. Like, there was just this association that said that dogs are bad, and he shut it off. And he said he, like, processed that through in his experience and was just petting this dog. Anyway, it was just.
Yeah, it's a great.
It's just interesting example.
Over there, yeah.
No, it wasn't such a deep like thing. Some people go through much deeper experiences.
Yeah,
but,
everyone to their own level has stuff that they're holding on to that's affecting their quality of life.
Right. I mean, the area that I am struggling with is that anything that has a good experience, especially in a world where, like, we all seem to be suffering, and that's one of my big issues nowadays. I'm overwhelmed with the amount of suffering that is happening in the world, like, and especially because of what I do. It's like overwhelming. We feel just a little bit of relief. I meet people. Best way to call them is like. Tripping junkies, like, it's like a constant state of going into these trips, and, like, I don't think it's helping them. Like, I think it's becoming like the drug that we wouldn't want them to do in the first place. Mm-hmm. Like, could we just take a good thing and ruin it, or should it just work better? Or
well, there's a few things. Let's say everyone's somewhat entitled do whatever they want to their mind as long as they're not hurting other people or taking away from other people to do however they want their mind to function. That stops being the case if the person is a father or a husband and has responsibility towards people. Then you can't do what you want for your own mind. Then you have other people you have to fend for.
Right.
And if you're successful where you've provided for your wife and your children and there's tutors and food and you have maids and you want to go off into another dimension and you're set with finances, don't really stop this, man. It's okay,
Yeah, I'm a libertarian also. Like, I don't have a problem with that.
We don't have a problem with that.
I'm saying something great could become something that actually doesn't help. Are you saying it still helps?
Well, it's the same thing with food, Food is...
I agree with... That is the same thing as food.
Crucial, and it's healthy, and we need it, but people abuse it. And so, yeah. So just like food is abused, psychedelics can get abused as well.
Right, it's okay.
And I've seen a lot of people who have got caught into psychedelic abuse where they've been having to take a psychedelic every single day. Not microdosing, but like tripping every day.
Right.
And sometimes there's certain specific psychedelics that will get them out of psychedelics. So a shaman would have to be an expert enough to know what psychedelic this person's into and what psychedelic can loop him right off and back into reality. It's fascinating. I've seen that happen often, of a psychedelic knocking off a psychedelic addiction.
Yeah, I have friends that like psychedelics told them to stop taking psychedelics.
Yeah,
that happens.
That's what happened to me as well.
Just stop.
Yeah, I wasn't abusing it, but I would, seasonally do it and for my journeys at a younger age. And then it came a point where, you're having communications in there with yourself or your soul or with something. You don't know what it is. And the thing said to me, we don't need you to keep coming back here anymore because you have all the tools down there ready for what your mission is on planet Earth. Like, you have a mission, go play it out. Don't come back here for us for anything else. You're good. And for me, I took like a deep breath and I was like, whew, thank gosh, it's hard work in this psychedelic space, to go through these trips. So
It could be hard.
oh yeah. So I was very happy to be like, just play my role down here and
Wow.
do what we got to do.
So did you get your farm?
Yeah, so we ended up doing the most miraculous story ever.
Different fact, another time.
Well, literally because of the beer company, we were able to leverage the value of it somehow and get a farm that we now have in Israel in the north.
What area of Israel is it?
In the Valley of Springs, the Lower Galilee.
I love that.
Beautiful, yes, the rivers.
Is
and
Kibbutz
lakes.
Lavi near there or no? It's far away.
Nearish, but not near.
Okay, not that close. Okay,
Yeah, more towards the middle.
just to Haifa.
You're like in the Jordan Valley.
Oh wow! Is it on the? Is it on the West Bank or no?
Right after. It's like the first village of Israel proper on top of the West Bank.
Really?
Yeah.
And what are you doing with the farm?
We had the land since around 2012, and it came with a house. We let a young Chabad family live there, rent-free. They take care of the electric and the water and the property tax, but they don't pay us to live there in this house. They have their horses and goats and chickens and all this stuff where they keep it, and herbs and teas and fruits and a little homestead. And in the back of the land, we have some young guys living, making like electricity rigs and water filtration systems and like all the ecological, sustainable technology stuff. It was just sitting for all these years. And 2 years ago, about a year and change ago, I was fortunate enough to be involved in the founding of Trippy VC, a venture capital fund.
Yeah, what is that?
It's a DAO.
I see the hat.
Trippy.vc. It's a decentralized autonomous organization, a DAO, which was a group of investors got together and pooled capital in a fund without expecting to ever make money out of the fund, where the fund will go towards impacting access to psychedelics in safe and legal spaces. So I gave my farm over to ownership to the fund, so it's collectively owned by a large group of people now. Mm-hmm. And within the group, we have like a lot of different plots of land, maybe 5 to 7 now, and it's growing. Beautiful farmlands with cabins where we're going to be creating infrastructure for legal access to psychedelics for our Jewish brothers and sisters who are suffering. And we invested in a few companies in Israel and America where legal psychedelics are already being approved and happening with university partnerships. And the goal is just to push the agenda forward, not to own the space, not to try to make money off of the space, just push the healing forward for everyone.
Maybe you're skipping parts of your life, but it sounds like such an adventure. It's like quite an adventure.
Yeah.
It really sounds like an adventure. A lot of the things that really excite me. Have you gone to meet any of these tribes? Oh, you mentioned. Okay, this is what I wanted to ask you about. You mentioned being with the Pashtun for a weekend. That's the people in Afghanistan.
Sure.
I wanted to ask you about that.
A lot of run-ins, but the royal family of Afghanistan's in exile right now in California. And
wait, the Pashtun are they part of the Taliban?
The Taliban is taking young Pashtun boys out of their house from young ages and radicalizing them in Wahhabi-style Islam, which the Pashtun tribal elders hate and dislike. So the Taliban is like what the Russians did to these Jews, at these young ages, putting them in the Russian army, like they don't know who they are. The Taliban is such like an insignificant, small percentage of the humans in the ground of Afghanistan. Afghanistan is 25 million Pashtun. Taliban, maybe a few thousand, 8,000 or 9,000 real Pashtuns in it, but these are brainwashed people who the tribal elders of Afghanistan are trying to like get them back out of this whole trip.
Right.
So the Taliban is a factor that has to be dealt with of foreign influence of radical Islam coming into Afghanistan.
So, like things like Osama bin Laden is not...
He wasn't Afghan. He was Saudi.
Saudi, okay.
Why he seek a refugee amongst the Pashtun was because the Pashtun have what's called in Judaism and the Torah, Ari Miklat, cities of refuge.
Right, I read about that.
Sure. So that means they have to protect someone running for their life, even if it's their enemy.
They were doing it for a religious reason? Like,
Yeah, they have places where you have to protect them. This was found in I forgot the name of the movie. It was like an American book and movie about the American soldier who got caught behind enemy lines in Afghanistan. I forgot the name of the thing.
was it Black Hawk Down? That's a different one.
No, it wasn't Black Hawk Down. It was this amazing story of an American soldier who got caught behind enemy lines in Afghanistan.
I think I know. I think he was on Joe Rogan.
Yeah, he was on Joe
I think
Rogan.
it was on Joe Rogan.
Yeah,
I don't remember who it was either.
And the Taliban was after him because they shot down the thing and they were looking for the survivor. And they saw, there was no survivors. They knew he was alive and they followed his blood and they're looking for him. And the Pashtun village found him. And because they have their code called Pashtunwali, which is based off Mosaic law, the law of Moses, they had to protect the person running for his life. And so they took the guy in, the American soldier, who they considered the enemy, and they took care of him, they fed him, and they got him back there. And the Taliban found out he was in the village, and they showed up with guns, and they said, give us the American, and no one gets hurt. And the Afghan village said, on the laws of Moses, we have to protect this man on our life. We don't have an option. And the village took their guns, and they fought with the Taliban, and a lot of them died protecting the American soldier.
Wow.
It ended up being the American army came and they teamed up with the village and they destroyed the Taliban army there. But you just saw they put
Wait,
their
so
life
you
on
met up with the Pashtun? That's what I want to know.
on many different times and occasions and
Really?
different locations of the world. But we happened to, with the royal families in exile in Afghanistan, we from Afghanistan and California, we had a Shabbaton with them. So we flew in a delegation of Jews from Israel. We had caterers. And we had a Shabbat party with them, and it was like magical,
You were there for 24 hours, like the whole Shabbat.
Yeah, and then we had a post-game chill, and then,
I mean, were they sharing stuff with you that was like...
Yeah, they have so much to share, a lot of stuff,
They believe that they're the Jews, like they don't...
No, because the Jew would refer to Judea. They believe they're from the kingdom of Israel, from the north.
They're Israelites.
Yeah.
And they're sure of it, like that's...
1,000% sure.
That's wild. Yeah. It would make me want to believe them.
They have family trees that go back to the, for the royal family, that go back to King Saul from the tribe of Benjamin.
It's amazing.
On Wikipedia also, like the royal family, tribe of Benjamin, connection to the Afghans. And the Jewish people from Afghanistan who've been living there for also the last 1,000 or so years had good relations with the Pashtun, knowing that they were brothers.
Like just another type.
You're from the 10 tribe. We're Jews. We do business together. It was like normal for them.
I saw a video of one of these Afghan Jews, and he's like, they asked him, they think they're Jews also? He says, they think they're more Jews than us.
Yeah.
That's us. But yeah, it's probably true. I also heard that they're very intense about their laws. They don't play games. They have
a lot of like the oral, the written law in the Torah is like really pretty harsh without the oral law to soften it, right? So the Torah says, hand for a hand, eye for an eye. So what does the oral law say, the rabbinic law say? Oh, it's not talking about
money.
Literal hand. It's the monetary value for a hand. Right. So you take a guy's hand, you have to pay the value of the hand. They don't have any of this Mishnah or the rabbinic laws, so they're cutting off hands.
They just cut off hands.
That's it. I mean, the people of Israel would stone someone who did something wrong. We pour hot lead down someone's throat. We had 4 death penalties. We were super serious back then. Not that we even had to do this stuff. Maybe on like once every 70 years or something.
Right. But they don't have all these rules about like evidence and stuff like that. They're just like if you did something bad, we just kill them.
I'm sure they have some type of system where they have to have validation. The Pashtunwali is the name of their code and should be studied. I haven't dove too deep into it yet, but I did some big data polls in Afghanistan, surveys and stuff. We'd map out all the custom and traditions and juxtapose them to the laws of Moses and see so many connected.
Okay, so I go on forever, but it's like pretty late at night. What is your goal in all? What is your goal in all this?
I don't have any goal because you see I got sucked into all this back.
So much.
So I'm just trying to enjoy my life and be a good husband and stay humble and grateful and enjoy every day. And what I did is, I learned from Mordechai in the story Purim, but he told Esther, he's like, listen, Esther, this whole thing is going to unfold anyway. So you could choose to play a role in it and help it unfold, or it's okay. If you don't want to, you could just sit back and chill. It's going to happen anyway. So I'm just like, okay, I make myself available. And if I'm needed for any role playing, I'm happy to help. If not, just gonna enjoy my time on this planet.
Okay, so how do I get in on a Pashtun retreat? That's my first question.
Yeah.
How do I get in on
Like
this?
follow me on Instagram.
What do I gotta do? I
and,
gotta.
I make like posts once in a while, like whoever I'm local in this area, we're doing a Shabbaton.
I want a Pashtun elder on my
We
podcast.
could arrange it.
That'd be so cool. I'm very, very, very excited, like about all this stuff. It's just, I mean, from what you're seeing, I'm just very excited about it.
Everyone should always do independent research. So every single thing I said, if you're really curious about it, do some research like I had to do to become certain about it, to be able to speak about it. You should also do the same. And you could see the name, like just go Yosef Zai. It's the name of a big Pashtun clan in Afghanistan. Malala Yousafzai, who won the Nobel Peace Prize recently, was a Pashtun from the tribe of Israel. Just go on Twitter and type in Yousafzai, make some friends, ask them some questions. They're out there. They're not like hidden behind mountains. They're on Twitter. They're on.
Any of them speak English?
Yeah.
That's cool as anything.
Majority of the world speaking English.
Okay, so if you had, you've been on a lot of things. Like you can stand on a rooftop and yell to the world a message that you want to yell to the world. What would that be?
Wow. Yeah, I just think that we should not disconnect what we're seeing in reality from the creator of the universe. We can see that there's purpose to reality, and we can have faith that there's something going to happen. And once we calibrate ourselves this way, we should just prepare ourselves for this great light from day one that's going to return in the future. So basically, I end on this note because I always like to speak about it. I don't know if we're ending now, but just has to do with what my message is.
Yeah, we're ending.
Yeah, what the message is.
When I start falling asleep.
Is we say the plague of darkness in Egypt wasn't actual darkness. It was abundant light from that light of Adam. And there was two responses to the light. The Egyptians curled up into balls and got terrified. And the Israelites were in like a state of spiritual bliss. And we also teach heaven and hell is not two different places. It's the same place. It's this abundant light. But for some people, it's like torturous. It's like if you shine a high-powered beam flashlight in someone's eyes, they can't see, they go blind. This was the darkness of the Egyptians. This is the fear of hell. This is the same thing the Ramchal teaches us about the Messianic era, that when this light comes back, there's going to be two different reactions. People are going to bask in its light, and people are going to get terrified from it. This is also the same response to the psychedelic space. Some people have a trip, and they go into this place of extreme light. Some people also get a little scared and crawl into this ball and just get a little whoa, it's a hard trip. And so I would just if I'm screaming on a rooftop, I would just be like, prepare yourself for a very great light because it's coming.
Wow. All right. Thank you so much. I really, really.
Yeah.
Ellie, you have any questions? Hold on. We're going to have Ellie.
I don't know if I have any questions. That was absolutely fascinating. I got to sit in all these podcasts, and this one was was really, really fascinating. No, I mean, I could totally identify with the this idea with too much light. It's too much. For some people, it's just painful. So, I mean, I just want to ask you, what does that mean? You're saying we need to prepare for the light. What does that mean?
Yeah. So
how does one person prepare for the light?
Super easy. So let's say I have two cups with me, like this plastic cup right here, and let's say I have a glass cup in my hand. I pour boiling hot water in this cup. What happens? Melts through the bottom of the cup. The cup can't hold it. If I have a glass cup and I pour boiling hot water, no problem. The glass cup could hold it. So we are a cup. We are a kli. And light pours into us. So we have to make ourselves a reinforced kli. So how do we do that, right? And there's different ways. The Ramchal, a great rabbi, wrote Masilat Yesharim, the Path of the Just, which is all about how to reinforce yourself spiritually so when this light comes, you can handle it. So you just read a book like that and you're set. You're good. Also, it says, like Rabbi Nachman says, the Shiva Pnei Menorah, the 7 branches of the menorah, is referring to the 7 orifices of our face, like our 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, and our mouth. There's 7 orifices that each one has to be guarded in its own way to protect you. Otherwise, you have a leak in your kli that you're going to leak out. So it means use your eyes to see things that are appropriate. When inappropriate, don't look. When you're listening to people, don't listen to people's slander. When you talk, don't talk slander. These are all microcosms how to perfect your kli. Obviously, guarding your brit, guarding your covenant is, the waste of seed today is very dangerous spiritually for people, and it drains your spiritual energy. See, these are all ways to plug in the holes of your ship so there's no leaks. So, through the spiritual path of our sages is like the safest way to prepare for this light. With emunah and strength, faith.
Dude, I'm so glad that I got to talk with you.
I
I hope that this is the beginning of an awesome relationship because I want to hang out with you, the Pashtun, maybe the Igbo tribe. Just
so
take me, man.
We have like sometimes like musical gatherings with the Igbo guys and the Pashtun guys, and we're all together.
Where?
It's about to get crazy now because like the world's greatest healer turned out to be a Pashtun guy from the royal family, and he's like going around healing celebrities and famous people, and so like
What?
yeah, it's a whole thing that's going on. So like the convergence of the two is like happening at high speeds now. It's like the guy who's gonna end up healing like all the Palestinians and stuff in Israel and the Jews and the whole conflict resolution is gonna be a Pashtun from the House of Israel. So there's a lot of exciting things to be on standby for.
Okay, sorry. There was technical difficulties and there was some sort of gap. Anyway, I just want to thank you.
The light. There was too much light happening.
It felt like our cups overfloweth.
No, the truth is, I was wondering if I'm able to reveal all this information about this Pashtun guy that I was talking about. I think I was thinking in my head
It was
it's
too much.
And then it was
Too
like,
much.
well, the whole thing
Okay.
thing
Well, we don't know who the guy is,
No.
but he shut it down. That's what happened. He got in here. He's like, okay, Rabbi Harry, enough is enough.
Yes, yeah.
It was so awesome speaking to you, man. I feel like we need a part 2 one day, but I'm getting in on a Pashtun gathering. I just got to meet some of these people,
For sure.
and I want to have some conversations with the black people that are descendants of
Listen, you just gotta like give them some validation. You understand what they're coming from, but you also have to explain to them the scriptures you're reading on the street corner yelling at me comes from the church Roman, Septuagint Greek translations. Was like 10,000 different versions of. So really, you don't have any Masorah. You don't have any ancestry like passed down from this teaching. It comes from pagan Romans. So if you really want to level up into your inheritance, here's some Torah. Here's some Rabbi Nachman. Go learn and let me know what you think.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Grow some payas, man.
Level up.
Thank you, brother.
Yes.
Thank you, Shavua Tov.
Thank you for this day that I've been given. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for this chance. Thank you for this chance to live anew.